So, today we're once again going to talk about something Stoicism related. And yes, it's once again going to be only the audio without a video for the sake of simplicity and for the sake of me being faster and for the sake of me actually doing a better job when there is no video, which is still interesting. Anyway. At first, I think we're going to go through Seneca on Cato, the best quotes by the howtobeastoic.wordpress.com site. As always, the link is going to be down in the description. If you want to check it out, please check it out. So there's going to be a bunch of quotes. And afterwards, it depends on how fast we're going to be. We are maybe going to go through a few more letters to Lucilius by Seneca. Is it by Seneca? Yeah, it is. Should be. Anyway. The Stoics were big on both real-life, Socrates, and fictional, Heracles role models. That's because virtue ethics is focused on the improvement of the individual character, something that can be achieved only by practice after other people's example. For the Stoics, unlike for Aristotle, virtue is both techne, so craftsmanship, and episteme, or teme, which is knowledge. Which is why John Sellers famously suggested that Stoic virtue is a kind of performative art of living. For more on the specific Stoic version of virtue ethics, see here and here. For Seneca, the most recurrent example of someone to emulate was Cato the Younger, the famous arch-enemy of Julius Caesar, or Caesar. So this post is an homage to both Seneca and especially Cato, listing the best quotes from all the works of Seneca that I could find in which the Roman statesman mentions his fellow Stoic. So enjoy. Really interesting, by the way. Was anyone ever so blind to the truth as to suppose that Marcus Cato was disgraced by his double defeat in his candidature for the praetorship and the consulship? That disgrace fell on the praetorship and consulship, which Cato honored by his candidature. To my mother Helvia on Consolation the 13th. Choose therefore a Cato, or if Cato seems too severe a model, choose some Laelius, a gentle spirit. Choose a master whose life, conversation, and soul-expressing face have satisfied you. Picture him always to yourself as your protector or your pattern. For we must indeed have someone according to whom we may regulate our characters. You can never straighten it which is crooked unless you use a ruler. Letters to Lucilius, the 11th one, on the blush of modesty. Which is, by the way, an amazing saying, you know. You can never straighten that which is crooked unless you use a ruler. Because how do you know? If it really is straight then. You know, if you're just doing it by, well, believing that it is then straight, you know, just by looking at it and trying, it's never going to be probably as straight as the ruler would suggest, quote unquote, suggest, or say, or tell you. Socrates was ennobled by the hemlock draught, wrenched from Cato's hand his sword, the vindicator of liberty, and you deprive him of the greatest share of his glory. Letters to Lucilius, the 13th one as well. Yeah, on groundless fears, 14. But why should I not tell you about Cato, how he reads Plato's books on the last glorious night with a sword laid on his pillow? He had provided these two requisites for his last moments. The first, that he might have the will to die, and the second, that he might have the means. Letters to Lucilius, the 24th, on the despising death, 6. Drawing the sword, which he had kept unstained from all blood shed against the final day, he cried, Fortune, you have accomplished nothing by resisting all my endeavors. I have fought till now for my country's freedom and not for my own. I did not strive so doggedly to be free, but only to live among the free. Now, since the affairs of mankind are beyond hope, let Cato be withdrawn to safety. So saying, he inflicted a mortal wound upon his body. After the physicians had bound it up, Cato had less blood and less strength, but no less courage. Angered now not only at Caesar but also at himself, he rallied his unarmed hands against his wound and expelled rather than dismissed that noble soul which had been so defiant of all worldly power. Letters to Lucilius the 24th as well on despising death, 7-8. I desire a life of honor. Now, a life of honor includes various kinds of conduct. It may include the chest in which Regulus was confined, or the wound of Cato, which was torn open by Cato's own hand, or the exile of Rutilius, or the cup of poison which removed Socrates from Gaul to heaven. Letters to Lucilius, it might be the 67th, but I'm really unsure. It's LXVII, so to speak, on ill health and endurance of suffering. Behold Marcus Cato, laying upon that hollowed chest his unspotted hands and tearing apart the wounds which had not gone deep enough to kill him. Which pray shall you say to him? I hope all will be as you wish, and I am grieved, or shall it be good fortune in your undertaking. This is something that I've heard before, or a quote that I've heard before. I hope all will be as you wish, meaning amor fati, love, faith. No matter what happens, no matter what is happening to you, basically as well, be grateful for it and love it. Amor fati, amor, love, fati, faith. Love whatever is happening to you, whether it is good or whether it is bad. Don't merely like it, but love it. Which, at first sight, it might sound a bit stupid, it might seem to be a bit stupid, because why the fuck would you be grateful for something bad happening to you? Like, it really does not make any sense. But, well, it does, because it puts you into a very certain place of, well, it is what it is, and I'm fine with it, and I even love it, which also gives you the power to see good things and, something to love in whatever is happening to you, also when it is bad, because maybe also, on the other hand, something way worse could have happened. Therefore, loving whatever has happened already makes sense. Like, okay, thank you, and I love what is happening right now because nothing worse has happened. All about perspective, I would say. Which, by the way, is also on ill health and endurance of suffering 13. So I'm only gonna now say the title of this letter because it makes it way easier and faster and more efficient. You need not think that none but great men have had the strength to burst the bonds of human servitude. You need not believe that this cannot be done except by a Cato. On the proper time to slip the cable, 19. The Catos, the Scipios, and the other whose names we are wont to hear with admiration, we regard as beyond the sphere of imitation. But I shall now prove to you that the virtue of which I speak is found as frequently in the gladiators' training school as among the leaders in a civil war. On the proper time to slip the cable, 22. Cato will bear with an equally stout heart. Well, is it hard? Yeah, I think it is hard. Anything that thwarts him of his victory, as he bore that which thwarted him of his praetorship. The day whereon he failed of election he spent in play. The night wherein he intended to die he spent in reading on the supreme good. Therefore Cato's honorable death was no lesser good than his honorable life, since virtue admits of no stretching. Socrates used to say that verity and virtue were the same. Just as truth does not grow, so neither does virtue grow. For it has its due proportions and is complete. On the supreme good, 16. Death in itself is neither an evil nor a good. Cato experienced death most honorably, Brutus most basely. Everything, if you add virtue, assumes a glory which it did not possess before. We speak of a sunny room, even though the same room is pitch dark at night. On the natural fear of death. And I have kind of spoken about this phenomenon, I would kind of call it, before, and actually I think, well, maybe, no, the day before, not yesterday, but the day before, which is all about us creating value and us attaching value and meaning to certain things, as they are doing. I mean, you can view death in this way and also in the other way. Depends on how you think about it. It depends on what you're attributing towards it, as well as this sunny room. On one hand, you're having a sunny room. On the other hand, if you're seeing it in a different light, just taken literally, then you're seeing a dark room. Pitch dark, pitch black, but it's still the same room, just a different light. And also the same sun, therefore, as well. Just being existent and not existent, therefore. Your dandy would no doubt seem refined and well attended in comparison with Marcus Cato. Your dandy, who, in the midst of all his luxurious paraphernalia, is chiefly concerned whether to turn his hands to the sword or to the hunting knife. Some arguments in favor of the simple life. 9. I don't know what a dandy is, by the way, so I'm willing to look that up. I even smartened myself up, becoming something of a dandy. Man about town, bring young thing, glamour boy, FOP, break, masculine, the dandy. There's actually the German word dandy, der, dandy, dandy man. Well, it doesn't give me an excellent thing of its kind. Excellent. Oh, so you're excellent, maybe. Listen to precepts like the famous wisdom of Cato. Buy not what you need, but what you must have. That which you do not need is dear even at a farthing. Very good advice. Just don't buy what you need, but what you must have. What is necessary for you to exist, basically. What do you need? We don't need so many things. We think we need a lot of things. We think we need a new car, this amazing car, this more expensive car, but do we really need it? If I had to describe Cato, who was unterrified amidst the din of civil war, who was first to attack the armies that were already making for the Alps, who plunged face forward into the civil conflict, hero is exactly the sort of expression and attitude which I should give him. On the usefulness of basic principles 69, we might picture that last and bravest wound of Cato's, through which freedom breathed her last. On the usefulness of basic principles 72. All ages will produce man like Clodius, but not all ages man like Cato. On the degeneracy of the age. Separate trials have been overcome by many. Fire by Mucius, crucifixion by Regulus, poison by Socrates, exile by Rutilius, and sword-inflicted death by Cato. Therefore, let us also overcome something. On the fickleness of fortune 12. It's very interesting. It really is. So many things, so many people have already overcome so many things. So why shouldn't we be able to overcome something as well? Why shouldn't we? Change, therefore, to better associations. Live with the Catos, with Laelius, with Tubero, or if you enjoy living with Greeks, also spend your time with Socrates and with Seneca. The former will show you how to die if it be necessary, the later how to die before it is necessary. On care of health and peace of mind, 21. There's actually so many interesting letters concerning just featuring ideas and thoughts and questions that we're still, or I'm at least having right now. care of health, and also peace of mind. How do I get peace of mind? Would actually be really interesting to read. But I don't necessarily think that I'm having the time for doing so today. What's the time? Shouldn't be that 15 minutes. Well, I do actually want to see care of health and peace of mind. Care of health and peace of mind. Care of health and peace of mind. Letter 104. Well, and of course it is like just a trillion times longer than I expected it to be. Well, I've expected it to be quite long, to be honest. But I wished it not being that long. Anyway, let's actually go ahead with the quotes, because I find them very interesting, even though I don't understand all of them, or I actually understand a very small portion of them. But this doesn't mean that you don't understand them. You know, there's definitely going to be somebody in the audience, somebody listening to this, that gets everything that I'm reading here. So yeah. Do you desire another case? Take that of the younger Marcus Cato, with whom fortune dealt in a more hostile and more persistent fashion. But he withstood her on all occasions, and in his last moments, at the point of death, showed that a brave man can live in spite of fortune, can die in spite of her. On care of health and peace of mind, 29. You see that man can endure toil. Cato on foot led an army through African deserts. You see that first can be endured. He marched over sun-baked hills, dragging the remains of a beaten army, and with no train of supplies, undergoing a lack of water and wearing a heavy suit of armor. Also, or always, the last to drink of the few springs which they chanced to find. You see that honor and dishonor too can be despised, for they reported on the very day when Cato was defeated at the elections, he played a game of ball. You see also that man can be free from fear of those above him in rank, for Cato attacked Caesar and Pompey simultaneously at a time when none dared fall full of the one without endeavoring to oblige the other, or oblige, I don't know. You see that death can be scorned as well as exile. Cato inflicted exile upon himself and finally death, and war all the while. Well, I don't necessarily think that inflicting death on oneself is sensical. Well, I don't know. On care of health and peace of mind, 33. Fortune, I have nothing to do with you, and this is a quote. I am not at your service. I know that men like Cato are spurned by you, and men like Vatinius made by you. I ask no favors. This is the way to reduce fortune to the ranks. Letters to Lucilius, CV, on the vanity of place seeking 4. I shall furnish you with a ready creditor. Cato's famous one was who says, borrow from yourself. No matter how small it is, it will be enough. If we can only make up the deficit from our own resources, for my dear Lucilius, it doesn't matter whether you crave nothing or whether you possess something. The important principle in either case is the same: freedom from worry. On nature as our best provider. And the last one, someone who did not know Marcus Cato struck him in the public bath in his ignorance, for who would knowingly have done him an injury? Afterwards, when he was apologizing, Cato replied, I do not remember being struck. On anger, 2.32, so Roman 2 and 3:32. Well, anyway, I'm gonna end the episode there. I hope that I've been able to go through some things, share some things, read some things that were of value to you, and maybe you can share these things. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and also the YouTube channel. I would appreciate that, and gonna see you the next time. So bye bye. Wish you the best. Stay safe.